pay them fees, and those fees used to be pennies, but now they're about $15,000 a day, which is why I'm forking Ethereum. It's a lot of money, and it's going up. That price is actually going up in the next 3 weeks because they arbitrarily decided to raise the cost of loading data from disk by 3x, 2.7x to be specific. And since HEX is the most popular dApp on Ethereum that's not for trading coins back and forth, it's its own thing, I guess. And there's some NFT things which overtook us this last month, but we're the most successful non-trading dApp on the Ethereum platform for like a year. And they arbitrarily just raised. So anything that does actual game theory and business logic that has to load from disk and isn't just a stupid token that doesn't do anything interesting, just got punished again. And so like the last fork, they raised the S-load data load cost by 4x, and then this time they raised it by 2.7x. So they've raised the cost of doing anything interesting on the platform by 12x. And that sucks because it's specifically just towards certain classes of applications that do interesting things. So, and then you multiply that by the big O notation scaling of synchronizing the prices of all these new automatic market makers makes it unlikely that you'll ever be able to do affordable things on the ETH chain again. Because the flash loan guys, there's theories that people are doing flash loan things and raising price on purpose just to see the miners get paid more. And you can't really argue against it. You're like, yeah, that, and you can see all this miner extracted value hitting with them reordering transactions, and you're just like, So I think short term, the solution for the T-share thing is just to show the data, because the way T-shares and HEX works is if you're a Bitcoin miner and you buy mining hardware, you get screwed over time. It gets worse and worse for you because your hardware will be less efficient than everybody else's. In HEX, when you open a stake, the rate that you get shares, the share price, is the lowest it will ever be, and it only goes up, and it's how we simulate compounding interest. So we simulate compounding interest by the share price in HEX terms only rising over time, and then the actual market price of a T-share is just the price in HEX times the market price of HEX, which we're using a USDC V2 Uniswap for our price oracle. Because it's not an oracle, it's awesome. It's like you can't make it cheat or lie, and there's no humans that run it. It's the best price oracle there is.
So, I think that first and foremost, obviously you need to do what's better for the integrity of the overall system. Part of the value prop of HEX is that it's really great for hodlers. And so I think market data becomes a kind of marketing. And I think there would be an advantage to having, if you're going to be forking Ethereum, then it probably wouldn't be too much to sort of modify HEX so that it isn't technically burned, but it just is sort of
so the way
away from you, and then it does get included in circulation, and we can count it. No one gets pissed.
Well, sure, that's super easy. So the first thing is to recognize that T-shares is an unrelated to calculation to supply. They're just not related. So the share price is its own thing that only ratchets up and is used to simulate compounding interest, and it has no relationship whatsoever to supply. Now, in regards to supply, if you go to Etherscan, you look up the HEX contract, you'll see a allocated supply. In the read address, allocated supply is the actual total supply. The ERC20 supply is the HEX that hasn't been burned by staking. So the ERC20 supply goes down when people stake, but the allocated supply does not. The allocated supply...
So we should just pull from allocated supply.
If you want to know the real total supply, yeah. That's staked plus unstaked.
Okay.
And it's an ERC20 variable thing. Like, you can just pull it right out of the contract. Like.
Huh. Okay. So, well, maybe that's a better way.
Well, sure. That would solve the market cap goes down when people stake. And it is also very important because our inflation rate is based on that.
To sort of modify HEX so that it isn't technically burned, but it just is sort of
so the way
away from you, and then it does get included in circulation, and we can count it. No one gets is
well, sure. That's super easy. So the first thing is to recognize that T-shares is an unrelated to calculation to supply. They're just not related. So the share price is its own thing that only ratchets up and is used to simulate compounding interest, and it has no relationship whatsoever to supply. Now, in regards to supply, if you go to Etherscan, you look up the HEX contract, you'll see a allocated supply. In the read address, allocated supply is the actual total supply. The ERC20 supply is the HEX that hasn't been burned by staking. So the ERC20 supply goes down when people stake, but the allocated supply does not. The allocated supply...
So we should just pull from allocated supply.
If you want to know the real total supply, yeah. That's staked plus unstaked.
Okay.
And it's an ERC20 variable thing. Like, you can just pull it right out of the contract. Like,
huh. Okay. So, well, maybe that's a better way.
Well, sure. That would solve the market cap goes down when people stake. And it is also very important because our inflation rate is people getting paid less inflation as more people staked.
Yeah, and I think there's a flag in our back end where we can sort of decide how to do this, because it really is arbitrary. Like I'm holding on to my Bitcoins. So is that circulating supply? I guess it is according to most blockchain explorers. But it's very much not in circulation. So you've created a system.
I mean, you guys might want to. You might want to adopt something similar to CoinMarketBook, or also Coin Paprika has this where they display order book depth on a 10% move.
Right.
I mean, if you really want to know what the real circulating supply is, you could look at recent non-faked volume or how thick the order books are, and that's like your market seller liquidity.
Yeah, we have that on the back end in the API. We just haven't visually displayed it yet. But I'm less interested in, getting an accurate picture of what's actively moving, and I'm more interested in, from a store value perspective, just what is happening with these coins that aren't moving. And so I think that most people's hodled Bitcoin is less in circulation than staked HEX conceptually, because you're kind of actively hodling it versus passively hodling it. But there's a whole bunch of different ways to see this, and it's
you could use days destroyed. You could use average. You could actually, like, if you go to BitInfo charts or something, like if you Google Bitcoin rich list, you can see a graph of this many coins has not moved in this year's, and this many coins has not moved in this year's, and it just goes all the way back. But I mean, once again, the only reason anybody cares about any of these things is because they believe they're proxies for price.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to slice and dice this.
Clay, I love seeing you in our chat, bro. I mean, it's great.
Hey, yeah.
You run a nice website, man.
I was listening, and I impulse bought some HEX and staked it for a year. So
nice, man. Welcome aboard.
Thanks. Yeah. I had a bunch of free. I got a bunch of free HEX earlier, but this is the first time I paid for it.
Hey, 100% uptime where everything else fails all around us. 100% uptime on the DApp, 100% uptime on the website, 100% uptime on everything worked perfect and continues to work perfect, while everything else is just getting wrecked. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Props to you guys.
Hey, man, it was really good talking to you. I got to run. I'll answer your DMs whenever you hit me, man. I'll talk to you later, bro.
Cool. Take care.
Ciao, man.
Ciao.
Yeah, thanks for speaking to my butchering of explaining all this.
Yeah, no problem. It's a fun space. Market data is kind of interesting because it's not, it's very different from blockchain data, and it's primarily driven by precedents set by Forex. So there's this kind of legacy system for thinking about data in the space, especially market data, and it's just a very different set of concepts and tools and frameworks than is used for blockchain data. So those two data worlds often do not overlap, and I think that's unfortunate.
With HEX, when you lock it, you say how long you're going to lock it for, and that creates a chart of future market supply.
Right. So you can actually predict market supply out into the future. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. It's something that's, there's this debate on crypto Twitter, where it was claimed that nobody actually knew how much Ethereum was currently in supply, or currently circulating. And
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, they were comparing the output of various block explorers, and no one could agree on actually not just circulating supply, but total supply. And so modeling this stuff out is really hard to do. Like if you look at Monero, they've got supply curves, and there's a bunch of ways to model the supply output over time, and none of them are perfect. Even Bitcoin, which is fairly well known, it's the oldest blockchain, but often blocks are completed in 2 minutes, and then sometimes it takes 15 or 20 minutes, but on average it's 10 minutes. So at any given point in time, a model can be off, by some amount. So I think it's the kind of thing that's possible to get roughly correct, but not perfect. I think where this would get complicated for HEX is just that so much is on the blockchain, and these blockchains, while open, right, like they're theoretically transparent, finding ways to like reliably query the data is hard to do. So there might be templated queries to get at the most common types of information that someone might want to get from the blockchain. But if you're like, all right, give me an endpoint now, or give me a routine to tell me exactly how many T-shares exist. Like, I'm sure someone has that code right now. But
we have that in the directory I sent with the hex.com/dev. There's this project called the Graph Protocol, which basically curates people's predefined queries that you've described. And so this guy named Cody, who I sent his direct message info, or at least told him to message you, he wrote our Graph Protocol like integration, and then you can just pull all the data directly from the graph. It's their own like hosted API thing, or you can host your own version of it and pull using the same template.
Yeah, that's great. I'd have to ask my CTO what the issues that we're finding with the graph. I don't remember if it's just generally slow or what's going on there. But we are having some issues with graph queries at scale. But maybe we're just not implementing it right. But that's good to know. Yeah. So I think that over time it's going to be easier and easier to query blockchain data, and then you'll be able to model out existing and future supply and do all kinds of funny things. The hard thing for us is our API is used. Well, we can't say who some of the larger companies used by, but it's definitely used by like top 10 exchanges by volume. It's used by some of the biggest players in the space. It runs some of the biggest OTC desks, and so that's very much an enterprise thing. But the website is consumer, and it's there are communities that care about very specific things, but we're trying to design for mass appeal, and so with anything we do, it's like, is this sort of one-off custom dev for one project versus something where there's a version of this that we can implement across at least all ERC20 tokens. That'd probably be the next step. And then if we applied all tokens, that's even better.
There's a site that displays real-time T-share price in USD and in HEX terms, I believe, called graphx.rocks, like graphEX.rocks. I'm not sure he even uses the GraphQL stuff, but I'll send you his info. I already sent him your info, so hopefully he'll message you.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. I think, getting in touch with more developers that are building, UIs for HEX data would be fantastic. I think if we get in touch with enough of these folks, we can build something pretty cool.
I tell you, really good. Have you ever been to hex.vision yet?
No, I have not. That sounds like fun.
And it already has all the data, so you can run your own custom, like, when are stakes ending of this size from this date to that date. And I can't remember the platform that he integrated it with, but it's like man, I'll just hit the site real quick and find it.
It's Elastic Kibana.
Got it. Oh, so Kibana, that's like an open source analytics front end. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kibana's pretty hardcore. That's awesome.
I think X has the best stats in all of crypto, literally, including Bitcoin. Like, we have the most in-depth, insane stats of any blockchain I've ever seen ever.
It's pretty cool. So what? Okay. So why do people? What's all the? Why are people talking shit? Like, really? Because I don't really think that Binance really fucking. So here's what I think is going on. Okay, so maximalists are maximalists. We don't need to discuss that anymore. I think CoinMarketCap doesn't have really good. This is my take. CoinMarketCap has really shitty outlier detection. So, every time some shitcoin, pops into the top 5 spots, rather than building some kind of, modifying some machine learning algorithm to find that and just snipe it, which is what we've done, and sometimes it misses, but it's getting better all the time. Rather than doing that, they've sort of defaulted to this very kind of manual process where you have to, be listed on X number of exchanges and fulfill a certain number of requirements, and then they'll allow you into the top 200. But I really think that's just a Band-Aid on, not having good outlier detection, which you have to have if you're going to be ingesting data at scale. Like, there's so much shitty bullshit. Like, we saw one of the top exchanges the other day was outputting data, and they had swapped the base currency and the cloak currency. And so it was just complete shit data. It would have totally fucked up the price of Bitcoin, and it didn't because we caught it. But I don't think they have stuff like that in place. And so I think they just are, like, I don't know if it's personal with them. I think they just don't have good, kind of big data ops around outlier detection. CoinGecko, I don't know those folks or what their motivation would be. But I don't think it's conspiracy with CoinMarketCap unless there's, like, information I'm not privy to. But it does feel like there's some fucking hate out there, and I really don't understand it. Like, this is the kind of thing where when we when we ran ads for HEX, or we've gotten shit for just posting the truth, and I still haven't heard a good argument around it. So I just don't know who's behind the who's running the bull show over there, and what their motivations are, or if it's just like, everyone wants to see a barrier to entry for every project that's not their own. Like, what's that about?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of all that. So, for instance, Wrap Bitcoin was worth, I don't know, $1 billion or more. Wasn't on CoinMarketCap. I pointed out, I'm like, hey guys, Wrap Bitcoin doesn't have any ranking on your homepage. They fix it. I'm like, oh, by the way, while you're fixing theirs, can you fix ours too? Because we had over 300,000, 300,000 Bitcoin used their private keys to mint their HEX in the contract. You cannot get stronger market fit. If you look on coinmarketcap.com, it shows that this coin is followed by like 27,000 users or 17,000 or something. You're like, these are real people. These are real people. You can see the hits on the site. You can see the engagement. You can see their browsers. Like, you can't get more real or better than we are. I think what happened was we made an original sin, and that original sin was telling the truth. Every single cryptocurrency is designed to appreciate except stable coins, and those pay their founders through interest in the banks. But we said that specifically. I said, hey, I designed this thing to appreciate in price, which is the honest design intention of every single business that has ever been created. Businesses are designed to accrue value for their shareholders. So I told the truth. It said I had designed this thing to appreciate. And then it's got to be a scam. It's got to be a scam. And you're like, no, like, don't you know who I am? I'm like the self-help author guy that's been here forever and has
longevity.
Right. Like, I'm sitting here. Hey, man. Everyone yells scammer at me, and I'm like, I don't have name a single human that's ever been scammed ever in my life in any business I've ever done. Everyone that I've ever done business would do business with me again. They got a good deal. So it's insanity. It's like upside down world.
Yeah. It might have been that you were just doing marketing at all, and you understand the psychology, and that's built into the price, explicitly built into what's happening, so you understand, scarcity, and takeaway selling with the countdown timers. Like, you understand why people are involved, even if they don't say it. So you just sort of.
I can tell you right now, CoinMarketCap's corrupt as fuck. So first of all, they got bought by an exchange, and if you go in their yield farming section, you'll see PancakeSwap, which is a BSC product, which runs on Binance. You'll see that in their yield comparisons, but you don't see Uniswap that basically fucking like invented that whole genre. Uniswap's not listed there. So they're not just fucking HEX. They're also fucking Uniswap.
Right. Wow. They're not listing Uniswap on their yield.
Wow. Market cap lists by like market cap, but it's not. Not in their yield farming section.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm surprised that, like, when I spoke with CZ, he wanted Binance Dex to get most of the volume. But PancakeSwap is like, the last I checked, was eclipsing Binance Dex in volume, and I wonder how he feels about that. Ultimately, I think it's a good thing for the ecosystem, but not what he intended.
Like, he finds it too much because every transaction burns BNB.
Yeah, right. Totally. Cool. Well, it's fun. It was fun hanging out with you all. I'm gonna try and get some sleep over here.
Anytime.
But Richard,
keep up the good work.
Great to connect. Yeah. Hey, huge fan. And got like $5,000 for free, and now I've got like I think $1,000 not for free. So so I'll be in these things more and more.
All right, ciao.
All right, ciao.
That was awesome.
That was cool.
Yeah. That was incredible. Yeah. Always good to see Richard and.
Wow.
Amazing.
All right. So who is next? Let's get Elon Musk in here.
Oh, he's lurking. He's lurking.
He's totally lurking.
I heard Tone Pays is Elon Musk.
No.
Humbug. What's up, guys? What's up, guys?